Heyo, it's OmniDog. Hey, OmniDogs and OmniKittens. Welcome to OmniDog's Vault, where I'm going to be talking today about books to read in October. I'm going to try and do a series of vids for this month, and these are books that are available, not out of print or anything, so they should be easy to get. And I'm not having root beer. It's late in the afternoon, so I'm having a cup of coffee because I'm about to fall asleep. There, I made sure you could hear that really good. Okay, sorry. So, books for October. The first book we'll talk about, October, scary month, spooky month. So, this book is not real spooky, but it's got some unsettling stories in it. Excuse me. And it's a good fantasy book, I would say. It's not a horror book. It's a good fantasy book. And I consider fantasy genre good for the month of October. That would be a book that just came out, Neil Gaiman and Mark Buckingham, Likely Stories. It is about 4 stories, I think. And there is kind of a gentleman's drinking club that, not a gentleman's drinking club, but a drinking club that is sort of the meeting place for some of the stories throughout the book. And that's really all the books have, all the stories have in common. But they're very interesting. First of all, the art is great. It's by Mark Buckingham. And of course, Neil Gaiman, I don't need to tell you about him. The stories are really good because I like them. They make you think, how does he think of that stuff? How does his mind think to go there? That's so interesting. The first story is about a guy that contracts an STD and what it does to him. Very interesting symptoms in the book, in the story. I keep saying book, and I mean to say story. Sorry about that. Now, this particular story is full of lots of tiny little panels, but it's very well written, this first story. Then the next one, now this next story, story number 2, which is called Feeders and Eaters. I will say it does have a little disturbing imagery in it. I'm gonna make sure I don't show you. It does have some disturbing imagery in it. It has a bit more of a horror element to it. It's very good. Good story. Now, this next one, I can't really show you very much about, called Looking for the Girl. As a matter of fact, I can't really show you any of it because it's about a guy that falls in love with a nude model back in the 60s. But it's a very interesting take on a guy that falls in love with a model from a magazine. And I'm not going to show you anything there. You're just going to have to figure it out. The next one's a bit of a ghost story. This is the last one, Closing Time. And it is also well written. And it takes place in that drinking club about some boys who go exploring and what they find when they explore in the suburbs of a decaying, genteel part of London. So I really like this book. Likely Stories. Solid. You will not be disappointed. Solid read. The next one is another kind of collection of stories. This was a recommendation from Riley Moore, Ice Cream Man. This is an anthology, and what runs throughout this is the Ice Cream Man himself. He is a character in all the stories. The stories have a little bit of a connection in that a police detective can appear in a couple of the stories, and it's got really solid art by Martin Morazzo, and it's written by W. Maxwell Prince. The stories are, and I found it to be really good. It is definitely got some of the unsettling sort of things unseen and things. It includes spiders, and monsters. So anything that contains spiders is, of course, incredibly creepy to me. So this is from Image, and it's not expensive, $17. You can find it on line for less than that, obviously. It's got a story about some junkies, a story about spiders, and it's got the ice cream truck guy right there who appears in a lot of, all of the stories. And what he exactly is, I'm not really sure till the end when you get a little bit more of a clue, sort of. But the stories are all well told, and I thought it was great. It did not, it's not hit you over the head horror, but it's a little more subtle than that, and I found it to be really a very worthy read. So I dug it. Next is a book that I have high praise for, but it's a commitment. Not necessarily a commitment to read, but a commitment to own, because it's 8 books. I will go, I will not go out on a limb. I will tell you that I violated one of my rules, and that is I bought all 8 books of Harrow County before I read a single one. Generally, I don't advise people to do that, because what if you don't like the first book? Then you're stuck with 8 books that you don't dig. So I violated that rule, but it's okay because I loved this story. Written by Cullen Bunn with great art by Tyler Crook, and Carla Speed McNeil fills in on a couple of issues. This is a story about Emmy in Harrow County, and a story starts out with in Harrow County, a witch is hung and burned, and Harrow County is basically haunted by all manner of odd creatures, and Emmy herself is feared to be the reincarnation of this witch that was executed 18 years ago. Emmy starts to manifest powers, and she has to decide, how she's going to use them for good or ill, and all the situations she's faced in. This book is great. I loved all 8. If you can see this well, my lighting here in the diner booth is not the best. I'll go back to the comic book room for future reviews because the lighting's better in there. But if you can see, the backgrounds in here are just lovingly detailed in this book. And there are all manner of spooky beings and creatures and occurrences that happen in this book. Very well told. I burned through all 8 of these books. I just got 8 yesterday. I started on the weekend, so it took me a couple days, but I was reading like 2 books a day. I was just burning right through them, and each book has 4 issues. And here's some ghosts that haunt their own graves. And Emmy can see all these undead creatures and sometimes can get them to do her bidding. There are antagonists that are brought in that are very powerful, that challenge Emmy. And there's a skinless boy whose skin, you can see on the front cover, Emmy carries around in her backpack, and the skinless boy is a familiar for her that helps her. He's running around without a skin, and his skin is kept in a backpack that the skin can talk to Emmy. And it is really, really well done. I can't say enough about this book. And it comes with a lot of extras each volume. One volume in particular has the artistic process which the artist used to create a splash page, and it is remarkable when you see how much detail and love that this guy puts into these images. And every splash page that incorporates the words Harrow County into it is really clever. And I mean, look at this splash page with the water coming down and puddling up on the ground. This takes some serious effort, and as well written as it is extremely well drawn too. Extremely well drawn with using all kinds of medium. I found it to be a very great experience, and I was really into this book. It was unsettling, it was disturbing, but it was exciting and very well written. It kept me involved. The world it built kept me very involved. And when some of the inevitable tragedy happens, you get affected. You get into a book that's 8 volumes long. When something happens to the characters, you get affected, and that's good writing because it has characters you care about, and it is something remarkable when you can build a world like this just from scratch, and you end up really caring about the characters. I cared a lot about Emmy. I cared a lot about her father in the book. She has a best friend. There's a creature in the woods that she has kind of a on-again, off-again relationship with, and you learn about his history, and you learn about the family she comes from, the family that she currently has, and her sort of ancient family. And if you don't want to spend the money for all 8 volumes, first of all, I don't blame you. That's some scratch that you got to come up with, but it is so worth it. This is one of my favorite spooky books ever. Now, there are library editions coming out. Big, nice library editions. Now, those may not be finished until next October. What I would do if I were you is maybe rent them from the library or read it on Comixology or read it online somehow and then get the library editions. I'm not going to be upgrading myself because I've already got all these paperbacks, and I definitely am going to reread them at some point, but I don't feel the need to upgrade necessarily. But if you haven't bought this book, I would read it digitally and then buy the nice library size editions. Or if you can't wait, you're like me, go out there, go online, get them for cheap at InStockTrades.com, and they are $15 a piece. So IST will have them for 42% off. You can get 8 books and have a great October with Harrow County. I would definitely recommend, highly recommend, urgently recommend that you read Harrow County. And then the last book is actually one of my favorite all-time October reads, and that is Jeff Loeb and Chris Bachalo's and Art Thibert, I'm sure I'm butchering that. Somebody will correct me. The Witching Hour, an old Vertigo book that tells the story of several different witches. First of all, it's got Chris Bachalo art. Crazy. I love his art. It is so well done. I love his art. And I think this is one of the best things Jeff Loeb has written. I find it to be really engaging and interesting. I think that my friend Omar from Near Mint Condition would call this a smart comic because you really have to pay attention to it. You really have to, it goes backward in time. Excuse me, it goes a little bit forward in time, a little bit sideways. This is one of those books that when I got done with it, I said, let me go back and check on some things. And it's a good thing I did because I didn't tie it all together until I went back and started over again. And then I went, oh, right. That's what that guy is. That's what happened. That's what he meant by that. And so it is extremely well written about these witches. It's 3 or 4 stories that are separated into 3 books. And they deal with wish fulfillment. They choose people by a variety of means. I'm not really clear on how they choose the people to fulfill their desires and whether their desires actually turn out the way the people want them to. They even help corral some bad guys in their own way. They help corral some bad guys, and it's done very subtly until it suddenly pops up and you figure out, oh, that guy's a bad guy and he's been doing bad things, and they figure out how to nail the bad guy. And I just love this book. I can't say enough about it. The Witching Hour is a wonderful, wonderful book that I found to be very smart, very well written, very well drawn, very very well paced. I'll stop saying very here. It is well paced, and it keeps you engaged and interested throughout the whole book. So I highly, highly recommend The Witching Hour. Jeff Loeb, Chris Bachalo, and Art Thibert, or Thibert, I'm sure I'm mispronouncing it. The Witching Hour, old Vertigo book that is simply wonderful. Gosh, I love this book a ton, and I think you will too. So, thanks for watching my video. Feel free to subscribe, hit the notification bell so you get notified whenever I post. Please subscribe, please like me, hit the like button, and until next time, I'm OmniDog. Peace and love, peace and love.